Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. Be honest with Chris and I. Are you any good at retaining your staff from year to year?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
A big thanks to our sponsors who make the CampHacker podcast possible.
Imagine camp registration software that actually gives you more time to do what you love. With UltraCamp, you can effortlessly track attendance, manage staff, streamline registration, and more. Explore now at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Why spend hours on your schedules only to find mistakes and missed activities for your campers? Let Camptivities do the heavy lifting and help you create the best schedule yet, without the mistakes and in less time. Come check out Camptivities, specifically designed for camps by camp people. Find out more at camptivities.com.
Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast, brought to you by UltraCamp, Camptivities, and the Camp Recruiting Retention Playbook from Joanne Warren Smith and me. I'm Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm the founder of Camp Highlight, a sleepaway camp for kids of LGBTQ families. And in my spare time, I'm a DEI consultant for camps and childcare programs.
Welcome to CampHacker, Chris. Good to have you this week.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I found your opening a little aggressive. Are you any good at retaining staff?
Look, it's just, you can be honest with Chris and Travis. If anyone in this industry, you can be honest with us. We can take it. Yes.
Man. There is so much to talk about when we talk about staff, because staff, I'm always saying this, staffing and training staff is our industry, because nothing happens without it. So which part of this gigantic elephant do we want to tackle today?
Right. Well, let me tell you this. So staff retention is, I think, getting worse, but it's not new. And I have seen, it's part of the reality of running the Facebook group for 12 years, is that I would see every year people complaining about it, people saying, oh gosh, what do I do? And then I would have people, be a big blow up discussion, not mad, but just be lots of discussion. And then I would have people message me on the side and they're like, I don't want to say this out loud, but I don't have these problems. And my answer is, I didn't think you would. Like, I know you're that kind of camp director. Mm-hmm. And I know that's that. And I'm not saying people who can't retain staff are bad camp directors, please. That's not at all it. I'm just saying that there are skills that each of us have. And I know that there are some people for whom retaining staff is a lot of work, but it's not, it's not crisis. So that's kind of my starting off point. Staff retention is possible. I know people in the industry who do it well. And I'm happy to talk about how, but I want to give you an opening thought.
Well, I don't disagree. I think for sure, I don't want to talk out of turn. There are several camps who are bad at retaining staff. And, these are sometimes they're people I'm working with, and that's why I'm there, is to help them retain staff, particularly in my case, staff of color or queer staff or retaining women usually isn't a problem in this industry. It's usually retaining men. So it's super important. And some people, like you said, are just better at it than others. However, it's not just the personality of the camp director. There's a lot of factors that go into that. It's the camp culture. It's whoever's hiring the staff and preparing them for whatever the gauntlet is going to be. It is it starts even before the interview, like what you're telling people about what they're signing up for. Then the interview, and then what are you doing with them? And then how do you take care of them after they leave? Like, all of that is it. So it's not just, there are great camp directors who maybe don't have great assistant directors who are ultimately maybe not responsible for creating the culture, but implementing it. And if they are not doing a good job, that could be the problem. Finding out where your staff retention problem is a challenge for sure. But there's definitely some places you can start. I don't know. Do you want to jump into that, or do you want to go somewhere else? I mean, I have some ideas.
Yes, please. You've got me riled. So,
Go for it. Go for it.
So look, staff retention for staff 2025 starts today.
Hell yeah.
Like you're saying before the interview, and I'm like before they arrive for their first time or before they arrive for this season. That's how retention starts. You have to be intentional. And listen, I know if you're a Camp Code listener that Beth and Gabs and Ruby have covered this from one end to the other. So I encourage you to go listen to their thoughts on it as well. They have lots of stuff. But I think the level of intention it takes. This is the thing that I understand is hard. Intention is hard. Being thoughtful about everything is hard, but it is nowhere near as hard as making male staff appear out of nowhere on the 1st of April. Not even close.
No, and also, oh God, I'm feeling confrontational today. Is intention hard? I just,
right. Fair.
Is it hard?
No.
What do you, let me take it down a second. What are you doing if you're not thinking through your camp program? What are you really in the business of doing then? And like, maybe you're listening to this and you feel like you're being called out. Well, then good. You are being called out. Like you should be able to explain to someone why you do every single thing that happens at your camp. Right. And because we've always done it that way is not an answer. So get rid of that. But you should be able to say every single thing. You should have a reason for why you do it. And when it comes to staff and staff retention, a lot of people get lazy because maybe you have a bias against young people. Maybe it's just the warm body strategy. Or anyone can do this job, which if you believe anyone can do this job, again, I'm going to say, are you in the right
probably
position?
Not a CampHacker listener.
Yeah. And you're also probably, you're not listening to this right now. Not anyone can do that job. So it's like intentionality is challenging. It's a lot. But I don't think it's that hard. And I think, especially if you're a CampHacker listener, like, I think that's a challenge you want to take on or you've already taken on. We should, and especially when it comes to staff, because I keep saying this, if you don't retain the staff, you're out of business. You're just out of business. We're all facing the same problem trying to find staff, particularly male staff who will stay.
Right.
And so anyway.
I know of camps that just through the way they're set up will turn over almost their entire staff and seem not to care that that's the way. I know of camps that have like 95% of their staff are international, so you just don't know if those people will get a visa the next year. And there are other people that I have heard speak at conferences who are like, it's fine if they don't return, I'll just put out ads and get new ones. And this makes me want to punch people in the throat. We're in the people business, so why don't you care enough about the current staff? Like, you're disposable to me. Google can give me more of you. Is throat punch worthy.
Again, wrong business.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're,
but I'm doing my best, and I admit that there's lots of days I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying to be empathetic with camp directors today because I'm not one. I see them, like I see inside your offices for people just like you, and being intentional about things. So let's define that. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to ask you to define intentional. Chris, being intentional about things is something that you build on. You don't have to be intentional about everything right now when it's overwhelming. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, this is one of those key places in this job that if you start to get this right, your workload goes down because it's easier to get and keep staff, and it's easier to get and keep campers. And so that's why it's worth investing in this. How would you define being intentional? This is a big Go Camp Pro word. It comes out in all the podcasts, but what do you mean?
I would say what I said before. You have an answer for every single thing. Why do the kids wake up at 7 a.m.? Why is lunch at this time? Why are you taking a 20-minute break before activities begin? And, when I do this work with people, they get defensive. And
Yeah.
I'm like, slow down. No one's coming for you. But your
Right.
defensiveness is telling me that you really haven't thought this through, right? So you're judging yourself in the midst of this conversation. I was like, listen, it's not about it's not about your ego or your feelings.
Yeah.
These are just things we have to do. Like, these are things that we have to think through. Why is there a 20-minute break before activities? Why isn't it 10 or 30? You arrived at 20. I would just like to know why. What is your thinking about that process? What are the kids doing, and how much time do they really need to do it? What's your data? My cousin once, years ago, when I was working a lot with parents and parent groups, and I was telling my cousin about my work. And again, intentionality is my whole thing. And I would really focus on intentional parenting, especially around making rules that work in your home, right? And as always with my family, I love my family, but they can be really dismissive because there's sometimes like, oh, what do you play with kids for a living?
Yeah.
Okay. So my cousin was like, oh, Chris, you want everyone to think about everything all the time. And I'm like, well, yes, especially parenting. Those are your kids.
Yeah.
Camp, those are other people's kids. You
Right.
best have put the time in. So being intentional is really making sure you have an answer for everything. Why is the schedule the way it is? Why is this the menu? Right. And if your answer is like, this is the cheapest thing, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep.
But just note, like, I always rip off Simone, and I always give Simone credit for this, but your budget's a moral document.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're making choices just based on what's cheapest, then that announces what's important to you. And that's fine. That sounds harsh, but I'm not judging anyone for that. It's just, you need to know. You need to be intentional and thoughtful about the choices you're making.
Yep.
Bringing it back to staff, you need to know why you're bringing staff, why you're bringing them to your camp, and what experience you are crafting for them. That has to be given as much thought as you give about the experience you're crafting for the campers. And like, just going off of something you said before about like, oh, I could just, staff is disposable, I can just get more people. Like the warm body strategy, everyone, okay, can we talk, just you and me? Everyone listen to me.
Chris is snuggling up with this microphone for this one.
I'm going to be very honest with you. The warm body strategy needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can we all commit to stopping it? Because it's actually hurting the industry. Every time.
Oh, yes.
It hurts the entire industry. Every time you bring someone there and they weren't vetted correctly, and they end up, vaping with a camper, or, touching a camper while they're naked, in a playful way, not necessarily an assaultive way, but that gets misread. If these are the things that are happening, right, it hurts the entire industry. Because those stories get out, and what's more, it gets harder to find staff. Okay.
Yep.
So the warm bodies things needs to stop. Stop bringing people here who can't do the job or won't stick around to do the job. It is much better. And I tell you, we just made this decision with Camp Highlight yesterday. If we don't have enough staff, we don't take as many kids.
Yep.
And that's the way
that's where people get lost.
Yeah.
They're like, I need all these kids to make the money. And you're like, well, you can't. Then I think you can't, you can't serve them.
Yeah.
You know that they're not going to have a good experience. It is, yes, there are lots of camps in 2024 who are still, because of the lessons from 2020, still only opening up spaces when they hire more staff.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be at 50% capacity because that's the staffing they have now. They waitlist everybody else and they bring them on when they know that they can be safely looked after.
And you know what, right now, Travis, people are listening to us in their car and their earbuds screaming and cursing us, because I'm aware of the financial realities of running a camp, especially if you own land and you have full-time staff. And I know what that's like. And I know you're trying to cram those kids in there, but it's time to think like long-term. The industry is changing. Mm-hmm. And especially after 2020, it's changing pretty rapidly. There's so much competition for things to do in the summer, for not just for kids, but for the young adults we employ.
Yep.
It behooves us to create an experience that they will enjoy, the staff. Do you know what I mean? So it's like just bringing people who are not qualified. It burns out people who are there who want to do the job and can do it, On top of that, it leaves an impression on those campers and those parents who will talk to other parents, not necessarily about your camp, but about camps in general.
Yep.
I gotta let you know, I've spent a lot of time. I was prepping for a speech I'm giving soon. Spent a lot of time just reading articles in media about summer camps because there were a ton after the pandemic, right?
Mhm.
In Times and Forbes and all of it. And I have to tell you, like, generally, people who don't work in this field do not think about the way that we think about it.
Yeah.
And in a lot of those articles, what came through in each of them is the chaos, especially around staffing. The chaos of having staff leaving in the middle, which was super alarming to parents in several of the publications I looked at, right? Like we have to do better, and we can. It just, sorry to say, and it's easy for me to say, right? But you might have to make different financial decisions. You just might, until you can get to a place where you can find qualified staff. They're out there.
Yep.
I know we always talk about a staffing crisis, but these young people are out there, or older people, I don't know, or we think about how we staff camp differently. Having people come for a week at a time, that maybe we can get older adults who are interested in spending this time, reliving something they did when they were a young adult. Yeah. I was a counselor until I was 38 years old. I did it. I did it for 20 years. I did it for 20 years. And just because I worked at camps that had accommodations that I didn't have to take so much time off of work anyway.
Yeah. So I want to say one thing about intention, and then we have to turn this towards some practical stuff. Okay. So intention seems hard. Here's one of my favorite stories. So one of our absolute, complete, 100% all-stars ever in the 15 years that we were camp directors, Beth and I made him cry because of something that he did. And he went on to be, honestly, one of the best we ever had, still a friend. So this was after a skit night, and it was in his first year at this camp, and his brother had been at camp before. The brother wasn't there now, but the brother had told stories about how this camp was, just felt some more connected, good community than the one that they'd grown up with, convinced the younger brother to come. And this person in the first week of camp did a really old fashioned skit, like one of those skits where you pull someone out of the audience and they're kind of the dolt in the, they're effectively making fun of them for not catching on to this. Like it's the sap running through the trees skit or those dumb things. And so after the skit night, we pulled this guy aside and said, I don't even know how to word this. We don't do that here.
Okay. There it is.
And this person just broke down and cried and said, I don't know if I can do this. There are so many rules. And we just said, no, there are 4 rules. Mm-hmm. We have 4 rules. And one of them is that you can't do things that will negatively impact people's self-esteem. Mm-hmm. and or make them feel safe and not feel safe. And so this is Beth's absolute guess. I know nobody in the industry who's good at this, better at this than Beth is. Mm-hmm. I was a good camp director until I worked with Beth, and then I became a great camp director because she pulled me up. And so, yes, our level of intention, we're looking at everything. But here's the payoff. So you're stressed. There's a lot going. Chris and Travis are telling you to do things that are hard. But there is a payoff because it wasn't easy to recruit staff, but it wasn't as hard as it was for lots of people. But our entire camp culture was based around this level of intention. And so you would have people who grew up in the community that you could hardly need any staff training at all. Mm-hmm. Because they just knew how we do things. And it is with that level of intention. So intention's important. It does pay off. I promise you it pays off. Every year it's the same thing. Lots of hours spent working on the daily schedules only for there to be mistakes, missed activities, lots of stress, and upset. Why is this so difficult? There's got to be a better way. There is. It's Camptivities, an activity scheduler made specifically for camps by camp people. Group scheduling or camper scheduling? they've got you covered. There's different day schedules. That's not a problem. It's auto scheduling, elective scheduling, batch scheduling. Just schedule the way that works for you, your camp, and the way you run things. With over 50 reports, you'll be able to see the data easily. When a parent calls and says, my camper didn't get an activity week 1, pull up the group activity tracker and see exactly when that activity was scheduled all summer long. Figure out and be able to tell that parent this is when it's going to happen next. Modernize the way you do activity scheduling. Make it easier to collaborate with team members, get rid of the mistakes, and make sure your campers are getting to all of the activities they want to. They would love to show you the next big thing in camp. Don't wait until the new year. Start the onboarding process now and save 15% for this coming season. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat with them. Let them help you get away from your desk and back out at camp.
I hear our own voices.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, if you're listening to this, it's so frustrating because either if you're listening to this podcast, either you're already intentional or you struggle to be so.
Sure.
Right.
But you are, if you're listening to this, then you're a person who wants to be that intentional. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, that struggle to be so is so much harder. And I know before I was like, it's not that hard, but like it is challenging. The struggle to be intentional is so much harder than just you and me being like, be intentional, you know, cut your profits. Like it's so easy for me to say that. And I want people to know that, like, I know that it's challenging, but it's worth it because, and this is always my thing. It's not just your camp, it's the industry, right? Every time there's a bad camp, every time there's a story about some staff member who did some crazy thing, right? And it makes the papers, it hurts the entire industry, especially, like, as I mentioned before, in this moment when there's so much competition about what to do for these people.
Yeah.
So let's talk practically about what people can do. Yeah.
So one, I think retention starts today. It is how you treat your staff before the summer that sets you up. Your first impressions builds trust with them, allows them to show up to training with an open mind and an open heart to get in to be part of your community and take in the details. But if they don't feel that coming in, then they're not going to be as bought into staff training. And then in the summer, I think it takes finding the people that you want to come back. This is classic Joe Richards. Finding the people that you want to come back. Joe had this scale. They rate people at the end just internally to know who they wanted to invite back. For me, it was much simpler than that. It was just all it took was the act of the camp director spotting a young counselor and saying, you're great at this. I want you here next year. That is a retention technique that we just employed naturally, but we realized that others didn't do it, which we found was really weird. But that happens then. And then I want to talk about how we communicate with them after camp this summer. I think they have to leave understanding whether or not, hopefully just whether people want them to come back, leave knowing that, and feel confident in it. And then you plant the seed for next summer that we'd love to have you. So even if you're making plans, I hope you'll consider us. Don't finish camp, say goodbye to your staff, and then not connect with them until 2 weeks before applications are due. Also, you should be communicating that entire time.
I'm going to go back to the beginning.
Please. Yeah.
Even before we get there, even before they get there, even before they're interviewed, the way that you communicate about what the job is on your website, in your media, like how you target people is really critically important. You know, I did a information session. I was a lecturer at the Columbia School of Social Work for a couple of years, and they let me run sessions to invite the students to hear about Camp Highlight and also Camp Stomping Ground, because Laura was there with me. And I'll tell you, I got staff from that. Yeah. And the thing is like, it was, I don't want to say shooting fish in a barrel, but I knew where to go, right? These are all people, they're graduate students in the School of Social Work, right? They have the baseline skills that we need at Camp Highlight. And so we just started targeting other things like that, like psychology students, like education students. Go to where your people are and try to make less work for yourself. I know at Tri-State last year, I went to a session which was like, just go to the local college and email all the athletes, because it was about finding men's staff. Email all the athletes on the athlete page. And I'm like, That's great, but that's such a scattershot. You don't know what you're going to get. And there's so much heavy lifting for whoever's doing the interviewing. Like, let's just work smarter and not necessarily harder all the time. So
Yeah.
before we even get there, who are you marketing to? And what are you saying? Those grad students, I was able to say was like, listen, I'm a social worker. You want to be a social worker. I run this camp. These are the skills that you're going to get that's going to help you in your career. And it's this, this, and this. And it was really specific to that. Can you get that level of specificity when you are seeking staff? Now, some camps need like 110 counselors to make that happen. So this feels like really daunting. But honestly, the whole thing is really daunting. What I'm inviting you to do is think about this in a new way, right? Well, a slightly new way, right? I'm asking people to take on the challenge to really think about, who do I want working with other people's children? So yeah, I think even before that, and then the interview phase, I think is critically important.
Right. Let's do interview specifically. Let me just talk about two pieces leading up to the interview. One is, so I'm focused on retention. So I'm thinking about retention because it makes my life easier and saves me time. And when staff leave, I hope, as I say, they know they're wanted, and then I am just communicating with them in the between now and then. It's not necessarily about your applications. It's this will make your life easier. Hey, isn't this fun? Sharing an interest because we like the West Wing together. Whatever it is, I am just making them feel noticed. Classic Travis Ellison. I want you to make them feel noticed and appreciated. So that's a returner. So coming back into interviews, and you can have great staff who are bad at interviews and or bad at getting their applications in. That's just a reality of people with different learning skills and all that. But if you want to prepare people for their interviews, look at what Gabs has talked about on the show a dozen times. The Waro interview prep booklet that they send. I was looking, I thought I had it on my desk, but I don't see it. They send out a booklet of interview prep. One of the things that I want to introduce here, and maybe we can talk about more through the last part of this discussion. You are not the most important thing to them, or camp is not. Camp is the most important thing to you because it's your life and it's your whole heart. But they have, even if it is their whole heart, they have other things that they have to do: get good grades, get a job, to stay in school, all of those things. And so first of all, send stuff to them and repeat that message. And don't be afraid to send the same message in different medias until you figure things out.
Let's talk about that.
Go for it.
Let's talk about reaching them. I was saying before, I was a camp counselor for 20 years from, I don't know, I'm trying to do math, 18 to 38. That's 20 years, right?
Yeah,
It's 18 to 38. I'm looking back, and I remember it was like the 6-week camp that I worked at for years. I got like 2 packets in the mail over the course of the summer. It's interesting how we've switched to what you're saying, which is like, be repetitive. I think it's the nature of email versus getting something in the mail. But experimenting with different delivery strategies, I think, is great. At Camp Highlight a couple of years ago, we moved away from email and we just straight up started texting people information. We would text them things, or we'd text them links, right? And again, or we communicate with them any which way. And we would ask them and keep that conversation live. What's the best way to reach you? And internally, they could never see it, but in our system under their name, we would keep track of like, text this person, right? Cold call this person, text this person, and then call them saying you texted them. And my staff is small. I'm only telling you about like 25, 30 people. That might be harder if you have 150 people working for you, but it's a mood, it's a method. Like how do you discover what's the best way to reach people? And I think that's really going to matter on the size of your staff, how much time you have to invest in this. But collecting data about how people are receiving is extremely important, I think. Because it's not email for me anymore. Can you believe it? It's not email. I can't tell you how many like work emails I miss. I work for myself and people hire me through the email. And
Mhm.
I sometimes I see an email, I'm like, this came 3 days ago.
Mhm.
It's not the best way to reach me.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. How are we going to reach these young people?
Yeah. Well, and the thing that well, there's so many pieces to this.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be
Um,
an hour-long episode. We could keep going.
Chris and I just hedging ourselves before we make statements.
No.
Like, okay, I get that this is rough, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I believe in my whole heart this is coming in like a couple of years that hopefully it's coming to our camp registration software and databases, but it's coming in the world that we'll be able to those notes that Chris was talking about, that'll just happen. That AI will tell us, okay, you can email Chris only on Tuesday afternoons. That's when he sit down and we can tell he opens them and acts on them. Or you can text Chris at this point, or you can message him in a different way, or send him a personalized video, whatever it is. Like it will tell us this works. And it'll probably even tell us what day and what content works to get that person to act. Because but you can do all that starting to take your own notes, even if it's sort of a mental note or just a little note on your phone. You can do that. Like, this is how you get Travis's attention. If you send them an email, no, if you send them a text and you want them to act on it, I know that Travis needs a gift and make him laugh, and then he will, and then he'll respond. But so that's coming, but you can do the work, as Chris said, you can do that stuff now.
If your staff is small enough, I think. If you're a large staff, that's going to be super challenging unless that's someone's job.
Right. Yep. There comes a point, and I don't know what it is. Probably, I would think 80 to 100 staff, of which it makes sense to have a staff person.
A dedicated person. You know what just leaped into my mind? Do you ever see Legally Blonde?
Yes, I have,
Okay.
but I don't remember much
So
of it.
in that movie, the main character, Elle Woods, she's trying to get to Harvard Law School, and she sends in a video application. And the admission board's like, do we accept video applications? And they're like, no. You know what I was just thinking? Because you'd mentioned something either during this podcast or right before we started about like different learning styles, right? Some people are not good at interviews, but they'd be great at the job. This is just a thought that I'm having, allowing people to apply in several different ways.
Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
Here's the application, the written application. If you are a Word person, or because more information is always better, send us a 5-minute video of you either, talking about why camp's important to you, showing off the things that are important to you. It's on us to change with the times. And I think that would really we'll be able to see staff in a different way. Again, those things are time consuming to go through, but listen, they're fun.
Beth and I did creative projects for applications since the late 1990s.
Yeah.
We had creative parts of it. And that was a challenge for lots of people. It was required in our case. You'd kind of send in the typical stuff, and then we're like, here, use this opportunity to stand out. But it's fun to go through those because you've given them the chance to do their thing. We had poetry and songs, and I don't know, somebody made a mailbox because it was a metaphor for how they're going to treat their children this summer, and handmade guitars, like awesome stuff because of that. So it was fun. Like I really like that part of it, and we had some that we kept for years because they were just so amazing.
And you get buy-in from before they're hired. Because if they can have fun, if they're working with their friends to produce this thing, it just and it includes more people who can't finish the application.
Yes.
In our system, we can see there's like 8 parts of the application.
Yeah.
I don't love that. But like every screen's a different part, and we can see where people crap out. People crap out at the essay questions.
Sure.
They'll do the first 6 parts, and then they'll crap out.
Yep.
And that's a lot of information. Like, what if I could be like, for your essay questions, send us a voice memo.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing that's holding you back.
Send us,
And the reason all these things that we're talking about is sort of like trying to make this appealing to staff, like try to make this job appealing to staff. So if at the beginning you're very clear and intentional about who you're marketing and what you're telling them during the interview process, you're very flexible and inclusive, then by the time they arrive for that interview, you've done a considerable amount of the work. You know what I mean? Also, you've got quite a lot of data about people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And I like the data part. Like this is and the notes about each one and just learning patterns and stuff. It's important to study that thing. This is why I got known in the camp industry as the camp social media guy. That was kind of the first whatever the how people first impressions of me were in the mid 2000s. And I hardly ever talk about social media in my marketing consulting anymore because I've measured it and it's not as effective as a million other things. And so, people are like, well, here's my social media plan to get staff, but and then they're like showing me stuff on Facebook and I'm like, just like walk away now. You've gotta be where they are. You gotta this is why that part's complicated because to be effective on TikTok, you have to understand the culture of TikTok and what works on TikTok. And TikTok, what works on TikTok is expanding, and there's lots of sort of educational channels now versus lip syncing and dancing. But you have to understand that that's a ton of work. But if you communicate with the people you already have, make them feel noticed and appreciated, and make them understand that you want them to come back, that cuts out all of that stuff. You can put in the same effort and have much greater returns if you're doing the data and understanding what works for your people.
Speaking
and
of
all that's
data,
cultural and regional.
Sure.
There are different things that work in different
yeah.
regions. There's
Definitely.
baseline stuff, of course, but there are just some special stuff that's more regional. Go
And
ahead.
keeping track of what works.
Yes, sir.
You know what? If you look at your staff that have come back for 3 years or more, look at all those people and see how you marketed to them specifically, because maybe there's a story to be told there. Maybe it's like, advertising in this community or in this publication yielded 6 people who have been with you for 4 years. Okay, well, that's beginning to tell you something. That similarity they have with each other already tells you which market might be the most effective for you to bring them on board. Once they are on board, you really have to take care of them at camp.
Yep.
And I think that gets overlooked a lot. I mean, really take care of them. I think we had an episode about this, but giving them enough resources to succeed. And that's access to in-service. That is a sensitivity to mental health issues. That is helping them manage the Sturm und Drang of being that old, being 20, 21 years old, surrounded by other 20 to 21-year-old horny people, like having them work through that. Yeah. That is super important. Too often I see staff arrive, and I don't want to say they're thrown to the wolves, 'cause that's dramatic, but the camp director, the assistant, ends up to be like a whip cracker. Like, all right, this is your job. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And no one responds like that well in a 24/7 job. Nobody can thrive that way. I can't.
Yeah. I will also say that it is worth going to your people and telling them what changes you're going to make your staff. Like based on your feedback, we're making these changes. So whether it's a bit more time off, a little more mental health support, I don't know, more trips to town, whatever it is, like ask them and then do that thing and then say, because you told us this, we're making this change. And then that's another way to make people feel noticed and appreciated.
I think that's where people fall down though.
Yep.
Everyone asks staff what they need or what they could do better next year, and not enough changes.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for that. I don't know if we can get it to them here. Yeah. But I mean, talk about being intentional. If you're this is always, like Chekhov's gun in literature.
Yeah.
Right. The principle of Chekhov's gun is that if you're writing a screenplay and you put a gun in a scene, someone had better fire it. Right. It's distracting. If we ask staff for feedback about what could be better, we had better listen to it and make the changes.
Yep.
Right. Because otherwise, what the hell is that about?
Yeah.
Or
even explain why not. Like we did a big exercise. Our senior staff would stay for 3 extra days after everybody left, so they could write a report. They could help with cleanup, and we just wanted, after a hard summer for them, we wanted to give them a chance to kind of have camp to themselves for a bit. But part of that, we would always do what works and what doesn't discussions. And every summer, one of the top things for the staff would be like, we need to hire more people, and we'd be like, okay,
always.
I agree, but and we had a way more top heavy staff than our camp does now. be like, we need 2 program directors. Like, but so we would, take in the
Or you need
information and
less
then later,
kids.
what's that?
Or you need fewer children. I'm going to
Fair.
just throw that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, when it would come later on to the decision-making times and we would make some of these changes, we would tell them when we made these decisions, but we'd also tell them why if we didn't make a decision. We can't afford it this year. This isn't, the answer is always money. Because if we could do anything for you, we would. It's just that we can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. And letting them know what you can do instead, and bringing them in on that, bringing them in on that conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I throw that to my staff. Well, what can we do? And the stuff they come up with, I'm like, great. If you all can manage that, I will facilitate that.
Totally.
Let's make that happen. Moving through the life cycle of staff, after staff leaves, keep up with them. I've said this a million times on this podcast and on 5-Minute Fridays, but like, stay in touch with them, build a community, like use Slack, a WhatsApp group, put in funny memes every now and then, drop a picture from camp in there, to remind them how cool it is. Wish them happy birthdays, do these things, keep them involved in your community, however you can make that happen. It leaves them with goodwill, and it helps recruit more staff. They're like, oh, this cool thing that I'm doing, their friends are like, why are you always on your phone? Oh, I'm just texting everyone from my camp group. Like, it becomes, my staff always accuse me of running a cult.
Right.
Because we're pretty much 24/7, 365. But over the years, these people ride or die. Like they're thick as thieves. And I love that as far as hiring is concerned, because let me tell you something. When one person doesn't come back, the full court press, like the other people in that age group, they're like, I heard Victor isn't coming back, but don't worry, Chris. Me and Krista, we're going to call him and we're going to sit down with him and we're going to make him come back. And I'm like, work. That's force him. But who can convince Victor to come back? His peers.
Yep.
They can make a much better case than I can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That feels like we covered a lot.
I mean,
any other points you want to make, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I feel like we gave people a shotgun blast to the face of like a lot of information and advice. I hope it all hangs. I'm gonna have to listen back to this later. I hope it all hangs together. I hope it wasn't too out there, everyone. But but no, I think, listen, I could literally talk for 8 hours about staff. Don't ask me, because I will, but we could stop here for sure.
Don't ask him, but pay him.
Yeah. If you want to pay me, I will happily come to your camp office or home and talk about how to find, maintain, and retain staff for hours. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
This episode of the CampHacker podcast is brought to you by UltraCamp. CampHacker listeners can discover the best marketing tools and apps for camps by visiting ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker and downloading the free guide, The Marketing Toolbox. The Marketing Toolbox has been updated for 2024 summer, so there's some great stuff for you to check out there. As a camp pro, do you remember what drew you to the camp experience? What made you the passionate camp pro that you are? UltraCamp knows that it wasn't for the paperwork. That's why they have crafted an all-in-one platform to streamline your program management. UltraCamp gives you powerful tools that put you in control of your information. It allows you to automate critical processes like registration and billing, and generate customized reports to give you valuable insights, such as the ones that we've been talking about today on our show. It also allows you to streamline your hiring process, including integrating background checks, and quickly communicate with your clients, your donors, and your families. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time having an impact with kids. If you want to know if UltraCamp is right for you, they offer customized, free demo sessions so you can see the software in action, talking about your very specific needs. You can sign up and get the free download at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Now it is time for our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
Have you heard the little jingle that goes with the tool of the week?
Yeah, I just did it when I was on mute. Tool of the week. Yeah.
So so Thompson, who's the kid who does that, he's
Yeah.
17 years old now. And about a year ago, I was to know you gave me permission and your dad gave me permission to do it, but you were 3.
Oh, wow.
And he's 17.
And look at
And hey, do you know that you're on every one of our shows? He's like, no way.
we've been
I don't think he was-
exploiting that clip for 14 years. No
Totally.
end in sight.
Yep. Nothing to say. So thank you, Thompson. Enjoy driving your car to work.
Oh man.
Because you're now that old. Tool of the week with a little jingo.
Mhm.
Jingle, not jingo. What do you got, Chris?
Oh, why do I have to go first? But I will. Okay.
I'll go first.
No.
I'm excited about mine.
I'm okay. Then I should go first because
Okay.
I'm feeling.
Because you're not excited?
I'm feeling away about what
Okay.
I'm about to recommend.
All right. Yeah.
Because I detest things that are popular because they're popular.
Trendy. Yeah.
However, this is a thing. So the first time I heard about people buying Stanley Cups, I thought people were buying isn't Stanley Cup like the thing you get at the end of if you win the hockey championship
Yes, the
or
Stanley Cup,
something,
indeed.
right?
Yep. Well played.
So I was like, are people buying Stanley Cups from old hockey players who are selling theirs off? But no, the Stanley Cup is a mug that's about a liter and it keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. And I got it for free at an event and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. This thing's on TikTok,
Right.
whatever. Listen, everyone.
Chris the
It's-
converted.
Listen, it's not just for white women into yoga in their 30s. Okay.
Mhm.
It's great. I will be transparent. I'm a little embarrassed to carry it around outside the house because I feel like it announces something about me,
Sure. Yeah.
whatever those things are.
Yeah.
However, I keep it here and I fill it up with tea, a liter of tea, and I'm just drinking it through the day and I get the liquid I need, right? Because staying hydrated, it's not just for camp, it's 24/7, 365. So, I mean, are there other thermoses and stuff that do this same thing? Absolutely. But Stanley Cups are everywhere and I'm happy to have one. So I would recommend it.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
This brings up something that I am the only ever permanent CampHacker host who isn't a tea person. Every single other person, and I've never seen anybody drink tea like Joe Richards can drink tea. Dan is a tea person.
Herbal
Gabs
tea?
is,
Like you don't like a nice peppermint?
sometimes that's the only thing I will do, and I might have that. I had one of those last week when I was at a conference
Well,
because
there
I
it
already
is,
had a coffee and I didn't want to get too wired up, and so. But sometimes,
I don't like caffeine.
I mean, tea's a big deal in my house. Beth has a $300 teapot because it makes perfect tea exactly the same every single time. It has been a tool of the week. In fact, I think it was Joe's first, is why I bought it, because Joe has 2 of these very expensive teapots.
I know we have to move on, but real quick. So this $300 teapot, it boils water, right?
And steeps the tea for just the right amount, depending on what kind of leaves are in there. If you want it a little longer, so it has a magnetic rail that it takes the basket with the tea in it. It pulls it down into the water for exactly the right time. It heats the water to the right temperature according to the right kind of tea, and then it pulls it out. It's not $300, but it's due. It's $200. Yep.
Sounds great.
Honestly, I heard Joe talk about it, and the first thing I thought was, this would be one of those things that will make Beth's mornings much better. I'm doing it, and I have never regretted that we spent it on that. It was a present that a bunch of us went in on.
Sounds a little bit like the Rube Goldberg machine at the beginning of the Pee Wee movie. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. If you're listening, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. But it sounds kind of, tea making can be simpler, but go off capitalism. I love that.
Yes, there you go.
What's your tool of the week?
My tool of the week. Thank you. I look back and I can't believe I didn't mention this. I have over, I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years, I've used 3 different apps that kind of brought all my messaging services together in one place and put them on my computer so that I can get texts and stuff. And they've all kind of died off, except for the one I'm using now, which is Beeper. So if you go to camphacker.tv/podcast and look at Beeper, this will be in the show notes with the code that you can join. It is an app on your phone and an app on your computer that takes all of your messaging apps and puts them into one place. So I get text, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook messages. I can do Slack. I don't do Slack. I do Discord messages in there. And it's all in one place. And if somebody sends me an image of something on their phone they have a question about, and I'm like, I need to pull that onto my computer to take a look at it or use it in. I was like, nope, it's already here. It's on my computer because it's on both. And it just simplifies messaging. I only have to watch one app. I turn off all of the notifications for all the other messages because it's only going through Beeper, and it has made a huge difference.
Can it send it back to that channel?
Meaning
you send me a Slack message, it comes up in Beeper, I respond, it comes to you on Slack.
Yeah.
And then like you WhatsApp me, and then that's interesting. They made a lot of these over the years.
Yeah, I've used 2 long-term. They both kind of died. And this one is better. Some of the ones that I've used on my computer they never made Android apps, so that's why I lost interest in them. But this one was Android and iOS out of the gate.
I'm downloading it.
All messages in one spot. It is a nice feeling.
Thank you. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but we do this all the time. But thanks anyway.
I always enjoy a good conversation about camp with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person in 9 days.
I know we will be at the OCA conference, which is very exciting. So if you see us, or maybe you've never seen us, if you hear our voices, come up and say hello. It is us for real. Yeah. And feel free to write me, chris@planetchris.net. And then we can set up me coming to your house to talk about staff retention for 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And whatever Chris quotes you as a price, pay it because it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I thank you for saying it, because when I say it sounds like a bit, much. Anyway,
I want you to keep having jobs in the camp industry so that I can keep podcasting with you.
I love the camp industry. I want to keep having jobs here.
Listen, I'm going to do one other quick plug. Please go check out Go Camp Pro's show, The Pudding, where Dr. Mandy Baker and I talk about the research about camp. And we are building up to record our very last of this first episode, where we're going to bring in people who are doing research that is a bit different than Mandy's in different fields. Some of which we've talked about on the show before. Thank you, Danny Sudman. And that's going to be our last show to help us kick off next season, where we're going to dig in deep with people on their own research instead of Mandy summarizing it and talk about the applications. So we're really excited about that. Search your podcast apps for The Pudding and get them there. And there you go. Questions or comments? If you're bugged by the brash style of Chris and I on this day, don't talk to Chris. It's not his fault. Let me handle it. Go to Travis at gocamp.pro and write me there.
We were on one today, weren't we? I got so real with people. Okay. Well,
thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Camp Pros. We love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.